Hey everyone, welcome back to Justice Redesigned. I'm your host, Stephen Teskey, retired judge. It's often said in the law that the wheels of justice grind slowly, but they grind, well, exceedingly fine. Now, you've been following our bar card series, and I know I just finished the last two episodes of the finale of the bar card series, but something has happened. But let me continue, okay? And I'll get to that. That something I have to share now because it's happening now. But like I said, if you've been following our bar card series, you know we've spent months examining a quiet, desperate struggle behind the scenes of American power. We've talked about the career prosecutors walking away from the Department of Justice. We've talked about the intense pressure on lawyers to trade their ethical oaths for political survival. And throughout this journey, we made a prediction, or I made a prediction. I predicted that once the temporary shield of executive power inevitably recedes, in whatever means, it could be, well, the administration comes to an end because there's term limits, like in Trump's case, the independent state-level bar associations, which do not answer to the president, would step into the vacuum to enforce the rules of professional conduct. In other words, go back now that these lawyers, like the Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is now undergoing an investigation by the Florida State Bar, and as I predicted, so would happen with Todd Blanche, okay, that, once they're no longer in those positions, for whatever reason, in Pam Bondi's case, she was fired. Maybe in Todd Blanche's case, it would be he's Attorney General until Trump's term ends, but they're going to start looking at him because complaints will start coming in. Well, my friends, get this. Just days ago, June 23rd, today's July 1st, okay, that prediction transitioned from a warning into a historic, finally stamped reality. You see, in New York, where Todd Blanche is barred, I'm barred in Georgia, Pam Bondi is barred in Florida, hence why the complaint is in Florida, a bipartisan coalition of, get this, 101 former state and federal judges, acting in partnership with the Lawyers Defending American Democracy Group and the Democracy Defenders Fund, filed a comprehensive, devastating, I know, I've read it, okay, it's right here, 69-page ethics grievance with the Attorney Grievance Committee of the New York State Supreme Court. Their demand? A formal investigation into acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, seeking the ultimate professional sanction, which is the revocation of his license to practice law, that is, disbarment. Just like what happened to Giuliani and Eastman and others, and their frivolous filing of complaints back in 2020 in courts alleging that the 2020 election was fraudulent, and that Trump really won the election. But no proof, no evidence. But I want you to think about the scale of this. This isn't a partisan press release. These are 101 former judges, not Dalmatians, former judges, bipartisan, seasoned institutionalists who spent their entire lives upholding the rule of law on the bench, attaching their names to a formal document declaring that the acting Attorney General of the United States is unfit, get this, unfit to practice law. And the charges they lay out are absolute. They break down 4 major ethical violations. First, they home in on Blanche's IRS tax immunity deal. What I left off with and finalized in the bar series just recently, the 2 last episodes, part 1 and part 2, is about this. That is Trump versus the IRS. But of course, I titled it Trump versus Trump. Why? Because they detail how Blanche, acting as Trump's personal family lawyer, while drawing a taxpayer paycheck, signed a document granting his former client blanket immunity from tax audits forever. It is a textbook violation of Rule 1.7 and Rule 1.9, which strictly govern concurrent conflicts of interest. Second, they document his retaliatory prosecution, specifically his use of grand juries and the federal government's coercive power to pursue politically motivated charges against political adversaries. This is the very practice we analyze in our episode, you remember it, titled What a Real Prosecution Looks Like? Highlighted by Blanche's frivolous indictment of former FBI Director James Comey over an Instagram post of seashells. It is a textbook violation of Rule 8.4, conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice. And third, in this grievance, they expose his financial conflict of interest. They detail how Blanche owned up to $485,000 in cryptocurrency assets while simultaneously, get this, issuing a DOJ memo shutting down all federal investigations and fraud prosecutions into the crypto industry. Wouldn't it be nice if you could invest in something, maybe questionable, okay, but at the same time be able to tell any investigating agency out there that you cannot investigate this thing that I'm involved in? I mean, if you don't understand that, if you're not getting that, then either one thing, you're just really too prejudicially biased in favor of Trump and Todd Blanche that you can't separate the trees from the forest, or you're pretty dysfunctional in your thinking and your logic. It's just not, the elevators are not stopping at all floors there. Okay? It's like, I'm knocking. Is anyone home? And no one answers. If you think like that, that's you. And finally, they expose his personal involvement in botching and withholding files under the Epstein Files Transparency Act, using his federal power to cover up documents for political allies. Look, folks, I have to tell you, as a retired judge myself, reading this complaint right here, filled me with a profound sense of institutional pride. I mean, there's no pride in the fact that a colleague in my legal profession is undergoing disciplinary proceedings. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm proud about is why 101 former judges signed this. Okay? Because you see, we understand the difference between robust, zealous advocacy and an absolute execution of professional ethics. We understand that. We know that an attorney general is not the president's private lawyer. We have watched the court struggle to manage a flood of bad faith filings by the Department of Justice under Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi. And we have watched the legislative branch fall into paralyzed party line divisions. But this complaint is a reminder that the system still has a heartbeat, that there are common sense, ethical people, and it's in the judicial branch, and they are lawyers who want to protect their bar card, and they're going to do the ethically correct thing, okay, unlike Todd Blanche, and judges. Now, Todd Blanche may believe his boss can shield him from congressional oversight. He may believe his political allies can protect him from subpoenas. Yeah, right. That's wishful thinking there, but they cannot protect his New York law license. All he needs to do is call up Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman. I mean, and there are many others, by the way, and I've talked about them in this whole bar card series. The state bar grievance committees do not care about executive privilege. They don't give a damn about the United States president. They only give a damn about the rules of ethics and whether lawyers have followed them. They do not care about recess appointments. They do not care about political polls or primetime news segments. They care about a single devastating question. Did you violate your oath as an officer of the court? And despite his extensive conflicts of interest, Blanche will eventually be forced to answer that question under oath. You know, folks, way back in the fall, I wrote an essay about the bar card, and I said then that with everything going on in terms of a number of violations of the Constitution by this administration and how the Attorney General's office was covering for the President of the United States and acting as if they were the personal attorney to the President of the United States, which is not what's supposed to happen. It is wrong. It is unethical. But I predicted back then that it's going to be the bar card, our license, that's going to come to the rescue. Because bar associations in every state, they don't give a damn about the president. And all these lawyers sitting in at the Attorney General's office, from the Attorney General to Todd Blanche, the interim, who, by the way, is coming up now for confirmation in the Senate proceedings, and now is facing this. And I'm going to tell you what, if you read this stuff right here and what the judges have to say, it is great evidence in terms of a cross-examination of Todd Blanche during those Senate hearings. But despite his extensive conflicts of interest, Blanche will eventually be forced to answer that question under oath. That question being, did you violate your oath as an officer of the court? I know Todd Blanche well enough from seeing him on TV and the answers he's given. You know, he is going to nuance it, wiggle his way, but never directly answer the question. That's his MO. Because he's forced to if he wants to keep the president happy. If Todd Blanche thinks he can outrun this reality, he needs only look at the fate of his predecessor, Pam Bondi, right? I mean, come on, she's currently facing a devastating ethics complaint with the Florida bar, filed by a coalition led by retired Florida Supreme Court Chief Justice Peggy Quince. Folks, I looked it up today. That has now been passed on by the Florida bar and is now in its investigative stage, meaning Pam Bondi is receiving questions. She's being interviewed. She has to respond. If she fails to do it, like sometimes she gives that attitude that she has before Congress, which is pretty much screw you. She won't. If she does that to the bar, they're just going to go ahead and disbar her. They don't. If you don't respond, they're just going to get rid of you. That's happened over and over again over the years. I've been in this business for 35 years. I've been a member of the bar for 35 years. The pattern is clear. Bondi is finding out right now. Todd Blanche is next. Why can't he just open his eyes and see what's going on with Giuliani and Eastman and all the others, and now with Pam Bondi? And then when he's made the interim director, all of a sudden, it's like he's not figuring it out. It's like it's not kicked. It's like the elevator's not stopping on all floors. Hello? Is anyone home? No one's home. What's going on here? You got to be kidding me. It's going to catch up with him. And it's starting right now with his grievance. The story of the bar card is a cautionary tale for every lawyer tempted to trade their ethics for their career survival. You see, titles expire, administrators fall, administrations fall. Political favor is a fleeting commodity. But your bar card, your license, folks, that's a lawyer's livelihood. And if you burn it to serve a temporary king, you'll eventually find yourself standing in the ruins of your own career. What are you going to do without your law license? All that time you spend in law school and all that experience, especially Todd Blanche, and then all of a sudden, boom, you don't have it? The only time you're going to get into a courtroom is if you get a traffic ticket or something worse. Anyway, folks, I just had to throw this in here because it's just happening right as I concluded the bar card series. And I had been predicting that Todd Blanche will one day deal with this. But I didn't think it would be this soon. And here it is, it's happening. But thank you for listening to this episode of the Teskey Brief. But you know what? Keep asking questions. Keep demanding accountability, please. That's what this podcast is all about, is to get that message out. Don't be naive and accept what people say. Look at it, investigate it, put some critical thinking to it, okay? I mean, I had someone who replied to one of my, was my other podcast on the Teskey Brief, who just simply said, leave the country. And I just simply replied, thank you for your intelligent critique of my podcast, with a laughing emoji. I mean, what else can I do? Is that all you're going to say? But I'm asking you, question things. Don't accept them. Don't embrace them. Just out, okay? Study it. Read up on it, okay? Because don't ever forget that the integrity of our justice system depends on those willing to defend the law when doing so is most inconvenient. Like, I know I have listeners out there that disagree with me, okay? I'm going to get replies like this limited one about we'll leave the country. Like, that's really letting me know why you disagree with me. I don't get it. What is it? Why do you disagree with me? Engage intelligently. Anyway, I'm Steve Teskey, retired judge, and maybe this might be the conclusion of the bar card. I don't know. Probably not, given this grievance has been filed, and there's probably going to be more to come out as a result of it. But until the next episode, whatever that one may be, y'all take care. Be safe. Bye.